fruits of the Spirit. And in Galatians chapter 5 and verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. And a good example of God's long-suffering is with the children of Israel. And the children of Israel is really a depiction of our walk with God. And, you know, the Lord had done so much for the children of Israel. You know, when Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh to tell them, God had told them to go to tell them to let my people go, and God has hardened Pharaoh's heart. And then he used Aaron to bring plagues, turn the water to blood, the plague of the frogs, turn the dust to lice, all these things. And so finally Pharaoh relented, let the people go. The Lord parted the Red Sea where they could walk on dry ground. And he literally removed the wheels from the chariots so that would hold the Egyptians back because they were pursuing them. You know, he fed them with manna on the dew. You know, while Moses was on Mount Sinai getting the 10 Commandments, they were building a golden calf, you know, because they were like, well, we don't know where Moses went. We don't know if he's coming back, you know, and they knew that God was on the mount with Mount Sinai with Moses because they couldn't even get near the mountain. And they couldn't have their cattle around there either. Like nothing could touch the mountain. So they knew where Moses was. And this is just like a repeated thing with the children of Israel. God would constantly rescue them, you know, and they would continually go back to their old ways. They even begged at one point to go back to Egypt because at least there they knew. And they were like monkeys with their hands stuck in the gourd and wouldn't let go of the beans. Like they just wanted to hold on to what they wanted. They built idols to other gods. They constantly worshiped other gods. The Lord told them, you worship me with your mouth, but your heart is far from me. And, you know, so you can see the long suffering that the Lord had with them. And the definition of long suffering is patiently enduring lasting offenses. And, you know, God is long suffering with us, you know, because we are so distracted by everything else in the world that we constantly lose our focus on him and trusting him. And so you would ask, why would a holy God, righteous, just God, be so long-suffering? And we get a glimpse of that in Matthew 13 in the parable of the wheat, starting in verse 24. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, First gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. So the Lord's saying that, you know, he's going to separate the wheat from the tares. And God's not slack in his promises the way men count slackness. And, you know, and while God is very long suffering with us, he won't contend with men forever.